Yo, YouTube, what's up with your boy, Sports and Fitness Rants? I'm back, guys. Click that like button. Subscribe to my channel. What's up, y'all? Welcome back, guys. Welcome back, man. Got another great video for you guys today, as usual, man. You guys know the deal on this channel. It's all about setting the record straight, stopping the lies, stopping the narratives, stopping them from rewriting their history, man. And in this video, I want to talk about something that I noticed. I was watching an old basketball game. You know, I do this from time to time. And I was watching the Chicago Bulls versus the Orlando Magic, game one of the 1996 Eastern Conference Finals. And what I noticed was the standard of the officiating has completely flipped upside down. The standard of officiating, guys, the way that the game is officiated, the standard has been completely lowered for these guys today. And we've talked about this before, but I want to just touch on a couple things that I noticed in that game in particular, and it made me, you know, it brought back some memories of basketball back then and how the officials would officiate these guys. And we're going to break it down in this video briefly, guys. And I want to thank you guys, everyone across the world, everyone across the states has been supporting my channel. Once again, guys, I'm truly, truly humbled by all the support, man. It really means a lot. Shout out to everybody in the membership, man. Thank you very much, guys. Anyone that's donated to my channel, anyone that's commented, shared my videos, like I said, you liking my, it means a lot, guys. The real recognize real. The true basketball fans are standing up. We must continue to do this, man. And you guys know what to do. Turn the volume all the way up. Hit that play button. Remember, these videos are for educational purposes. And let's roll. So, yes, guys, like I said, man, excuse me for a second, guys. I was watching the 1996 Eastern Conference Finals, Game 1, Chicago Bulls versus Orlando Magic. Remember, it was the reckoning, I told you guys, from Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls, right? And the Orlando Magic was the team that he was looking for, right? The entire season. Michael Jordan talked about that. The playoff matchup that he was anticipating, that he was waiting for, was against the Orlando Magic. That's what he wanted to see in the postseason. He wanted to go through them to get to the finals, because of the way that they had beat the Bulls the year before and the way that they celebrated, guys. Remember, that's important that we remember this. The way that the Orlando Magic celebrated that victory over the Bulls in the Eastern Conference semifinals the year before. They celebrated by what? By how? By lifting up Horace Grant up onto their shoulders and basically parading him around the court. Like he was a folk hero, as if he just slayed the dragon and saved the kingdom, as if they just won the NBA Finals. That's the way that they celebrated, as if they defeated Michael Jordan and the Bulls to win their first championship. And Michael Jordan and the Bulls, if you guys remember, Michael Jordan stood there on the court, and he watched them do that. He stood there, and why? He didn't walk off early. He wasn't a sore loser. He stood there, and he took it all in, right? Because he wanted that. He wanted to feel that. And that was part of the motivation for Michael Jordan the next season. And he said, I want to go and face the Orlando Magic. That's who I'm looking for. This is the matchup I've been waiting for. So it was a big matchup for Michael Jordan going into that series. And I was watching game one. And if you guys remember, the Bulls swept the Orlando Magic 4-0. And game one was a rout. But game one started off as a very good game. The first half, the first 2.5 to almost 3 quarters of that game was very competitive, back and forth. The Bulls would build up a lead. Then the Orlando Magic would make a run and come back. Then the Bulls would make a little run and build up a lead. Then Orlando would come back. And Anthony Hardaway was sensational in that game one, man. Sensational. I mean, just really giving it to Scottie Pippen. You know, there was a couple times that Michael Jordan was matched up against him, and, you know, there was times that he was guarding Michael Jordan. I remember him stripping Michael Jordan on one occasion, and you rarely saw Michael Jordan get the ball stripped out of his hands in a triple threat position. Anthony Hardaway did this. So Anthony Hardaway was sensational. He said it was a very good game, even though the score would indicate that the Bulls blew them out. But like I said, but 2.5, 3 quarters, the game was really good, man. Like I said, back and forth. Like I said, Anthony Hardaway was very good. But in the beginning of that game, what I noticed in the first quarter, maybe the first quarter and a half or so, the officials called Michael Jordan for a travel. I believe it was on consecutive plays where they called, like, I want to say they called Anthony Hardaway for a travel, and then they called Michael Jordan for a travel, and then they called like Ron Harper for a travel. There was like 3 traveling violations within like 4 possessions. And what it made me realize and think about was the many, many times that I remember watching basketball and the standard that the officials would hold. So what do I mean, guys? You guys know that, you'll watch a basketball game back in the 80s or the 90s, the 2000s, and, when there was physicality allowed in the game. And what you'll notice is that the referees often in the beginning of the game will let the players know how they're going to officiate it, right? What standard they're going with. So they'll say, hey, you'll hear the announcers say, hey, the refs are really letting them play tonight. You'll hear them say things like that. And what they're referring to is the referees from the beginning of the game, from the opening tip, basically telling the players by not calling fouls or blowing the whistle or quick is that we're going to let you guys play a little bit. We're going to let you guys bang around. We're going to let you guys lean into each other. We're going to let you guys do these things. We're not going to call it chinchy fouls or very tight calls. So they're setting the standard from the beginning of the game, letting these guys know, hey, this is how we're calling it. Whether we're going to call it tight or we're going to call it, let you guys play a little bit. You guys have probably heard broadcasters say things like that in the past. It's the same thing when I was watching the game and they called those traveling violations. This is what we're alluding to on this channel, guys, when I tell you that the players today appear more skilled because they've lowered the standard for them. So how can you really be more skilled if they're lowering the standard? If you're that much more skilled, the standard should be raised for you. They should be officiating you more tightly. But in reality, it was Bob Cousy and his era, the Jerry Wests, the Elgin Baylors, the Oscar Robertsons. It was guys like that in those eras, the Sam Joneses, the guards of those eras. They were the ones that were being held to a higher standard. They were being officiated tightly, to the letter of the law, essentially. So when they make fun of those guys today, they don't know. They sound ridiculous. They expose themselves because they don't understand the officiating of the game back then and how it was very tight and it was strict and they enforced these things. They held a standard, the officials. Now there's no standard. The guys will have to palm the ball, carry it, take 3, 4, 5 steps, and they'll say now it's a gather step. Or they'll say now, oh, he was pivoting. Oh, he didn't have the ball yet. It's always an excuse now. They let these guys get away with a lot more. So when we talk about the skills of these guys today, it actually is not a valid statement because the skills that these guys supposedly have, the dribbling, the shooting of the basketball, they're allowed to manipulate the rules for these quote-unquote skills. So when I'm watching the game and they call those 3 traveling violations in like a minute or 2 minutes, a couple times down the court, it was like consecutive plays. What the officials were doing there was letting the guys know, hey, listen, man, we're watching you guys here. We're watching the feet. You guys are not going to be allowed to be out here traveling, taking the extra jab step, put the ball, or take a step before you put the ball down. And the call on Michael Jordan was a travel. He traveled. He got the ball. He took a step before he put the ball down. In the triple, it was a travel, guys. And this is what we're alluding to. They called travels on Michael Jordan. They called travels on the star players. They called travel on Penny Hardaway. It was a travel. They called travel on Ron Harper. It was a travel. So what the officials were doing was letting these guys know, hey, listen, we're watching this. You guys are not going to be taking these steps doing this. So what do the players have to do? They adjust. When you see the officials call 2, 3 travels consecutively like that, all of a sudden now the players know, hey, listen, man, I got to be tight with the footwork today. We got to make sure that we're not traveling or dragging that pivot foot. We're not taking that extra step. We're paying attention to what we're doing here. The officials held these guys to a standard, guys. And those are the facts. And that's how many, many games went back in the days when they actually officiated these guys when the game was physical. Like I said, they'd let them play, or maybe they wouldn't let them play. They called tight. Hey, listen, we're not going to play this game today. And oftentimes, if there was a rivalry involved where teams are heated, it's a contested rivalry perhaps, the officials would try to tighten it up a little bit to keep it from getting out of hand. But there would also be many, many times where the officials would let them play, let them bang around, swallow the whistle, so to speak. Right? Many times when Michael Jordan Bulls were going against those Detroit Pistons, the referees were letting them play. They were letting them do that. They let them beat Michael Jordan up. They allowed that. The New York Knicks in the early 90s, they were allowed to be physical. That was their style of play. They earned that reputation. So the referees allowed them to get away with more, to be physical. That was who they were. I told you guys, you developed a reputation on the court. Whichever way it went, whatever your reputation was, you developed that reputation. You earned it. And your reputation will precede you oftentimes. You guys have heard that saying. And what that means is that a referee, if he knew that this guy had a reputation of being an all-time great defensive player or being a great defender, then you would get away with a little bit more. You were given the benefit of the doubt, so to speak, oftentimes, because of the way that the reputation that you developed. It preceded you. So they're not going to call you on a reach and foul, or if you go to strip somebody, they'll think more often than not you legitimately got that strip because you're one of the great defenders. You built up that reputation. So as great as Michael Jordan was, and like I said, as great as a lot of those players were, they still were held to an officiating standard. They still couldn't just travel and carry a ball all over the place, right? They couldn't do these things. They had to actually go out there and play the game the right way. And no, the referees didn't call everything. Did these guys travel? Hell yeah, they traveled. They got away with common violations and all of that stuff. But once again, it's the consistency, guys, of it. It wasn't as consistent as it is today. They were consistently being called for it back then. Today, they're consistently not being called for the travels, the palms. You guys know the deal. And those are just the facts, guys. Watching the game, this is what the officials would do. They would call 2-3 travels, maybe call a couple of carry violations early in the game that they saw to let these guys know, look, you guys got to pay attention to this stuff, man. We're not going to let you guys manipulate the ball like that and do whatever you want on the court. We're going to officiate the game, and we're going to hold you guys to a standard, man. And that's what I tell you guys on the channel about the standard. We're upholding a standard here, setting the record straight. No one wants to be held to a standard. They want you to praise them and celebrate them, but never criticize them. They want to be the greatest all the time and be compared to the greatest ever of all times without earning it, without going out there and actually, like I said, earning that respect to be mentioned, to be worthy, to be mentioned with those guys or debated with those guys. Those are the facts, guys. You guys know the deal, man. I'll catch you guys on the next one.